Welcome back to the Patriots Report, part of the Believe Network presented by FanDuel. My name is Christopher Price, the Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com. Joined today by my podcast partner and two-time Super Bowl champion, Chris Hogan. Chris, A.J. Brown has arrived. It's happened. And I got to tell you, man, seeing him in mandatory minicamp a week or so ago, it was like Christmas morning. This is a guy who is absolutely transformative. I'm not going to engage. I'm not. You know me a little bit. Yeah. I'm not about hyperbole. I'm not over the top. I'm not one way or another. I like to keep things down the middle. My philosophy is that it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. The truth always lies somewhere in the middle. With A.J. Brown, it's exactly as good as you think it is.
Really?
He's tremendous. Go ahead. I want to get your first thoughts about him in a New England uniform and maybe what that means for this offense in this passing game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think from what I've seen, and I haven't seen as much as you have on the field, but I think it's doing for him or at least what we initially thought it was going to do. It's kind of like a rebirth here a little bit, some new energy. Now, listen, I don't think we really fully understood the scope of what was going on in Philadelphia. And I think things, like you just said, they probably weren't as bad as they were, but they weren't as good as you think that they were. And it just seems to me, you can kind of tell he's got a little extra pep in his step. He seems happy. I think he seems excited. For me, right, when after I transitioned from New England to a different team, it's a learning experience, right? Things aren't always as good, but then you get to a certain point in your career. It's like, now it's something new, right? A new playbook, you have a young quarterback who's good. You have new teammates, guys that want you there, a team that wants you there. I think he already has this sense of confidence, right? But I think it's building on top of that, and he's going to be a big part of it, right? And so I think for him, listen, this is like best case scenario, right? He's in a great place. The team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year is on this trajectory of, hopefully only getting better as a team. We haven't talked about Mike Vrabel and all that nonsense since he got here, right? So that's already gone. So I think right now it's all right, I think it's for Josh. I think for Mike, right? It's how do we use this guy? What's the best groupings to put out there? Because I think, listen, we got some guys in this room now. A.J. Brown I always stood by this wide receiver room, and I thought that they were good, right? They weren't a bunch of number ones, but they were a bunch of guys that could compete, and they were going to play their butts off, and they were going to do what was asked of them, and they were going to get open, catch the football, move the chains. A.J. Brown kind of just jumps this up another level where you're game planning for A.J. Hopefully I'll ask you about Kayshon in a minute, but Kayshon, Pop, Kyle. You throw Chiz in there too if you want. Mac, right? So you got a bunch of guys. You got a bunch of guys that are going to be role players on this team, and this offense, I think, is better than it was last year. I really think as long as, again, stay healthy, everyone's doing their job. Drake is getting comfortable with, even more comfortable with the offense and the receivers, and I think that's going to open up more things for Josh. I am very anxious, I guess, is the best way to describe it, to kind of see him put pads on and see what Josh kind of gets out of this offense with AJ now kind of mixed in here, with all the guys. So it's going to be the offense is going to be fun to watch. I think Drake is going to take another step this year in a lot of different levels. And I think, again, for us, you and I are always going to talk about just positive, right? Just process and taking the next step and the next step, and just he's done that, right? And I don't know what he's looked like in mini camp or OTAs, but from what I've read and from what I've seen, I think he is taking those steps. And I think as long as everyone behind him is kind of leveling up their game, right? Where, we talk about a quarterback that was in that offense for a long time that did that to an entire team. I think you're gonna see a New England team that's gonna come out and play good football. On all three sides of the ball, right? Because they know what they have on offense and defense, special teams. Like we have guys, we have the players. We're not a team that is like missing all of these pieces now. We have pieces of the puzzle, right? And it's like, okay, let's put them all together. How well can we fit this team together and then go out and win football games?
A.J. Brown, in my mind, is the first offensive skill position player who's been a part of this franchise where opposing defensive coordinators are going to have to go, crap, we got to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is the number one option. We have to figure out a way to slow this guy down. The Patriots have not had a guy like that since Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, 100%. And Josh thrives in that. Thrives. When he knows that there's going to be a defense that is going to try to take somebody away, he is going to use that to the ultimate advantage. And listen, AJ is going to get his touches no matter what, just like Gronk, just like Julian, just like Randy, just like all the guys that got that defense were trying to take away. Josh finds a way to get these guys the ball, but then that also opens up so much more. It opens
that
up
was my next
everything.
question. Yeah, that was my next question because I know you played in an offense, obviously with Rob Gronkowski, with a similarly overwhelming offensive player, and Josh McDaniels as an offensive coordinator. What does this do for some of the other guys who are going to be a part of this offense moving forward? I was trying to explain to someone the other day that it really is, when you get an offensive skill position player like that, it's a domino effect because it's not only focuses attention on him, it opens things up for so many other aspects of that offense.
Yeah. I mean, it's opportunity, right? I think that's the best way to describe it. Now, I think, I played with Gronk and also Jules, I put underneath that category too. Offenses or defenses were designed to stop those two guys. They really were. And what Josh does and does just an unbelievable job of is he's going to mix up personnel. He's going to mix up formations. He's going to mix up spots. He's going to have guys all over the place. And he's going to put, first and foremost, he's going to put AJ in a position to win, right? And he's going to, whatever AJ is best at, whatever he's good at, whatever routes he's going to be, wants to run, can run, does very well, he's going to be in those positions. But like how he gets there, like that's going to be the thing that we have to kind of wait and, we have to watch. There's going to be, AJ seems like a pretty smart guy, man. So like there's going to be movement pre-snap. There's going to be mix of formations, trying to get him off the ball so that he can get free releases if he's getting double teamed. But then, again, as games go on, Josh also does a really great job of changing stuff on the fly or noticing things on the fly and say, hey, okay, cool. They're doubling AJ this game. Great. Okay. Pop, Kayshon, Mac, Hunter, like you guys are up, right? Like now we're going to get into this world and this formation and play calling where, all right, we know that we're going to have a double team here. Like, well, great. Let's put AJ 3x1, put him on the backside and let's play over here. Right. So now there's going to be so much, Josh going to probably play a little bit of chess, which I think he's very good at. And I think that he loves to do. And it really, again, it opens up the offense. And I think with Drake having another year underneath his belt and another whole offseason and training camp to work with Josh and kind of understand the offense, I think things are going to move quicker. I think that there's going to be more involved. I think that the playbook is going to open up. They're going to put more things in. The red zone offense is going to open up a ton. Places where we struggled last year, I think, AJ is probably going to be a huge help in that, and just understanding how defenses are going to play us now in the red zone, right? I don't think they really had, there wasn't really much like that. There weren't a lot of double teams going on in the red zone last year. There's going to be some double teams this year, right? There's going to be hey, we can't let AJ Brown get open in the end zone because he's going to be the main focus. All right, cool. Well, now what does that do for our other guys? This adding him, I think we were all excited about the chance that this was going to happen. I think that it takes this offense and this team to another level, and I think it's on them. You have the guys, And we can sit here and talk about, oh my God, how great this team could be and yada, yada, yada. Like, at the end of the day, these guys are going to have to go out and perform and understand that that target is painted pretty firmly on every single one of you guys' backs, right? And people are going to want to come out and try to beat New England for what they did last year or what we did last year. And like, what are you going to do, right? So it's going to be fun to watch. I hope that this whole positive, it seems like everything's very positive right now in New England. We got the new facility, we got new, new weight room and food, and maybe there might be a plane in the future. Like it's all positive, man. So, and we had some bumps in the road, which is fine. Like just BS in the beginning of the offseason with Mike, and that seems we're not talking about that. I mean, I think. Who knows if we add another couple of guys here going into training camp, Steph Diggs is still out there. Like he could be a guy. I don't know.
Need another pass rusher, by the way.
Or another pass rusher. I saw
there's some veteran guys out there.
There's some vets out there.
There's some guys
available, right? So I think, listen, I think if you're Elliott, I think if you're Robert Kraft, I think if you're Mike, I love the idea of, hey, we are building a team, but let's add some. If we have to bring in a guy for a year that's going to be able to be active and helpful on one side of the ball or the other, like let's go win, right? Like we're entering into this world. I think that we have the quarterback. We're able to build a team for the future, right? In our draft, that we're getting good young guys, but also we have the ability to go win football games. Like this should and can be a playoff team from now until I don't know, right? Until Drake is done playing football. So how do we go about doing that? What are we willing to pay? What are we willing to kind of what are we willing to do to bring those guys in and make that happen? So it's good. It's exciting stuff, man. It really is.
I want to talk about two different receivers and how this move may impact them moving forward. But first, I have a question for you, a trivia question. And I want to kind of fold in a bold prediction here. Do you remember the last time the Patriots had two wide receivers with 60-plus catches in the regular season?
Two wide receivers?
Two wide receivers, not a tight end, not a running back, but two wide receivers on the same roster the same year with 60-plus catches in the same year.
It's got to be Randy and Wes. Was it that far back ago?
Well, not that far back ago. It was pre-Hogan, though. It was pre-Hogan.
Okay. Julian would have to be one of them if it's not Wes.
Yep.
And pre-Hogan.
The year before you got there.
Was it Julian and was it Danny?
Yeah.
Julian and Danny.
Yep. 2015. Last time the Patriots had two wide receivers who had 60 or more catches in a single season. That year, Danny Amendola had 65. Edelman had 61. My bold prediction is that A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs will make that happen again in 2026.
Didn't even mention Romeo.
Yeah, right? That's my next. I want to kind of lead into that. There are two guys, and the impact that this move has on two guys. First of all, Romeo Doubs has to be the happiest man on the planet right now because he will no longer have to be the number one wide receiver. Not that he couldn't handle that, but I have to imagine, you just talked about opportunity. No one's going to stand to benefit more from increased opportunities than a guy like Romeo Doubs with A.J. Brown around.
Yeah. Romeo, Kayshon, they're all going to benefit from this. And gosh, AJ comes in and everything just, we're glossed over here that we have AJ Brown and forget that you got Romeo Doubs in the picture too. So again, this wide receiver group has kind of transformed into a room where people are going to be talking about, not saying that they weren't before, but like the scouting report on these guys, like, hey, we're not double teaming. We're going to come out. We're going to do what we do. It's going to be a mix of man zone stuff, but we feel comfortable trying to play man against these guys. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that we're going to see a lot more. I could be wrong, right? There are going to be some teams out there, right, that are going to try to stop us and play man. Obviously, in got to have it type situations, third and short, red zone type stuff. But in the regular defense, how are you going to play us? Are you going to double team AJ? Are you gonna try to play zone again? Like, if that's the case, and they're playing zone, like that's Josh's dream, right? Then it's like dialing up everything. Everyone's going to be involved. Try to find the open spots. Over the middle of the field is going to be huge. So again, we don't know what we don't know until they actually get out there and we see what formations, what personnel groupings are going to be out there. He opens up a lot. We're probably gonna see 4 wide this year, right? You're gonna see a bunch of guys. You're gonna see Mac Hollins as probably like a tight end type, player where he's chip blocking and doing this. But AJ, Romeo, Pop, Kayshon, they're all out there. Like, that's, and not even mentioning our backs yet, right? Who are going to be mixed into the passing game as well. So this offense has really, it's leveled up, right? And that's a credit to Mike and Elliot and Robert. They've done the things that I think that they've needed to do this offseason, which we've all been waiting for, right? This offseason where we actually make some moves. We made some moves, man. Our offense is going to be 11 guys, 12, 30, however many guys it is that they're going to go out there and really compete, right? And we're not even talking about our quarterback, was a runner-up in the MVP last year. So, you got a lot of guys, man, and it's exciting. It's exciting stuff, especially for guys like us, guys like you that are covering this stuff. There's so much excitement behind all of this. You just wonder, how is it all going to piece together going out there, playing real football, right? I mean, it's one thing to talk about mini camp and OTAs, and AJ looks amazing, and Romeo, and oh my God, they're completing all these passes. Like, we haven't even put pads on yet. So, and I'm not worried about that, like, because AJ is a vet, Romeo's the vet, a bunch of these guys, they've played a lot of meaningful competitive football now. So I think it's just understanding. It's like, all right, like, what we did last year is great, but let's turn the page and let's move on. And like, we have to go out there and do it again. Like, everyone's going to be expecting that we're not the type of team that everyone or that we think we are. So, like, great, like, underdog mentality. Let's go.
What do you do with Kayshon Boutte?
Listen, I've heard, I've read. If I'm Kayshon, right?
Who did very well, by the way, in the spring, looked very good, said all the right things. He didn't blow anything up. He's just, you give him credit for doing the best he could do from a PR perspective under a relatively difficult circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like the grass is not greener on the other side. It's not. Now, if someone comes in and wants to make a trade and is going to give you some sort of life-changing, contract, and that, that's something that you want to do, which I totally understand, right? This NFL is not for long, and you have to look out for yourself at some point and do what's best for you, your family, your future. I get that. But like, if that's not coming to the table, go win football games. Go be on a winning team. Go back to the playoffs. Go be a contributor. Yeah, sure. You might not have 60, but you might have 40 and be like a very meaningful part of this offense, and go put together a hell of a year. Go into next year. Is he a free agent next year?
He's got 1 year left on his current deal.
Great. So then guess what happens? You go out, you have a great attitude, you compete your ass off, and now New England has a choice, right? Like, hey, let's extend him and let's give him what he's due, because he's went out. He was a contributor on this offense. It wasn't like whiny about any of this stuff. He got his touches. I mean, we all said this. Kayshon could go out and be one of the best receivers that we have out there, right? Because we don't know, like, some guys into this offense, all of a sudden Kayshon's playing lights out. Then Josh knows that. It's not like he's going to hide people in his offense. If we got guys that are playing well, then he's going to get the rock. And Josh is going to find ways to get him the ball too. I mean, this kid was making game-changing plays all year last year. Like no one's for
Houston game. The arm out, the one-handed touchdown catch.
Like no one's forgetting about that.
The
right?
best
Josh
catch of
is
the
not
year.
forgetting about that. So I get it, right? We bring in AJ, you bring in Romeo, and it's like, okay, well, where's Kayshon fit in? Like Kayshon's number 3. That's where he fits in. He fits in on the field with all 3 of those guys, and that's your starting 3 wide receiver package. Like that to me is awesome. Right. And then it's a mix of Kayshon and Romeo, Kayshon, Romeo, and Pop, Kayshon, AJ, Pop and Kyle. And that there's going to be so much different little nuances to this offense now that Josh has these few other guys that he can just throw in all I mean, gosh, man, we used to have so many different formations, right? We'd have 3 or 4 different formations with just 3 guys on the field, but it changes their position. And you'd have to know all of that. Now, was that going on last year? Yeah, I could tell just like hearing some stuff on TV, but I don't know if it was happening as much because we were really playing, it was Steph, it was Mac, it was Kayshon. Like we really had a group. Pop was in there a little bit, but that was really our grouping of guys plus Hunter and our tight, and the backs. That's not the case anymore, right? We got like 4 or 5 guys that we could throw out there with the tight ends and the back. So I think, again, like I know I've said this a bunch now, it's just the offense it's opened up now that we have the type of guys that we have in the locker room, right? In all those position groupings that we can now, Josh can kind of mix and match and kind of go into each game with a really good game plan of, all right, like, this guy's going to be highlighted. This guy's going to be highlighted, right? They're going to play AJ this way. Like, that's great. So there's a lot of stuff there's going to be a bunch of moving parts, I think, which I think is awesome. I think Drake is capable of handling all that. And it'll be, you want to talk about like the old New England offenses, right? Where you just have a bunch of guys moving around and multiple play calls at the huddle, just getting into the right one. I think this is going to be fun for Josh, for Drake, and this offense. I really do. Every single week, it's going to be some new stuff, some little changes, new red zone plays. And I think that's probably where things are going to probably be more successful is in the red zone and in those gotta have it type situations, because we have this multitude of different groupings and guys now that are capable of making these plays. So, and that was one of the areas that we struggled with, right? Is putting points on the board when we got down inside the 20. So we start doing that, that you putting, 6-7 points on the board as opposed to 3, like that's a big difference, right? Over the course of a season, that's really making some significant changes. Not even talking about the big play type, with you're going to still have Max streaking down the field, right? Because he's going to take the top off, or Kayshon on the outside. So, like, the opportunities, it's endless here. And I think that it's great. It really is, man. And this offense could look great. It really could. It's just a matter of like kind of putting it all together and making sure you're going into training camp with that right mindset, and then going out, at the end of August and going into September when live bullets are going, and just going out there and performing. All right. Because at the end of the day, we could talk about this till we're, blue in the face, but got to go out there and do it. So I think New England fans should be excited. I think that the team should be excited. And, once we get down into training camp, I hope kind of all the, I want Christian to get paid. I think that he deserves to get paid. But like, again, let's kind of leave all these looming things, that distractions, I guess we'll call them, right? Yeah, let's stay focused. Keep playing. Like, you're gonna get paid, bro. Like, there's no doubt. Like, you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna get paid. There's no doubt in my mind, right? They love you there. Everyone loves you. You proved that you could be one of the best corners in the NFL. You played on the biggest stage against the best wide receiver in the NFL last year, and you shut him down, right? Like, that's elite level stuff, right? Like, go out and do it again. So, and then let's keep having these conversations, and maybe it's they get something done during, who knows when they get it done. But on both sides of the ball, or all, offense, defense, special teams, it kind of seems like things are coming together even more for this team to really not be overlooked as, this is a playoff contending team no matter what way you spin it. And last year was not a fluke. This is a good team. They just got better by adding some people. And, regardless of where they're playing, you better show up because they're going to be able to do it.
I want to ask you a little bit about that, but I have two final points on Kayshon before we move forward. First of all, I think he was very, very smart, and he said all the right things. The weekend before, I don't know if you saw this, the weekend before mandatory minicamp, he was not there for OTAs, but during right before mandatory minicamp, he put on Instagram, "Hey, I'm showing up at this park in Franklin. Going to work out. We're going to play some basketball." He took his case to the people. And there were shots of him playing ball with kids. There were shots of him playing catch. Incredibly smart move on his part. Man of the people, Kayshon Boutte. Look, I love New England. I want to stay here. And then secondly, let me present to you a scenario here where we get to Labor Day, and Kayshon Boutte's had a great spring, great summer, really impressive over the course of camp. And let's say I'm just going to pick a team out of thin air, like the Lions, have a wide receiver that goes down during training camp. Lost for the season, torn ACL. They call up Elliott and say, "Look, we'll give you a fourth for Kayshon Boutte on Labor Day." What do you do?
I mean, that's a real scenario, right? That's a real situation.
Because it happens every summer. There's a team that loses a wide receiver every summer.
Or there's just a team that's just like, hey, we need some help. And they're going to go into the end of training camp and teams are going to evaluate, or they're going to, after their first round of cuts, and it's just going to say, all right, this is a room that we need a little bit of help. Who's available, or who can we kind of try to go out? Like, he's going to be at the top of people's list to reach out to Elliott for. I don't have the answer. I don't even know. I don't, because I like Kayshon. I thought he was awesome last year. I would love to see him in this offense because I think that I talk about opportunity, right? And, I played in an offense where I had Julian, I had Gronk, I had Danny, I had James White, and I had Martellus Bennett, like where you got these monster guys that are capable of getting all these catches. And yet, I led the league in yards per catch the first year, because there was so much opportunity, right? And it's for him, those opportunities are going to come. They might not come 15 times a game, but they're going to come. And if you take advantage of them, man, you're going to put yourself in a good spot for going into the following season. So I don't know. I don't know. I think if you're Elliott, and I think that Kayshon has a good training camp and he's had a great spring, and you're going into the season and be like, hey, this kid's going to be a big part of our offense if he's here, then I think that the ask has to be something really significant for someone to come in and be like, hey, we want to trade for Kayshon. Like, all right, great. Well, we want him here. So what's your best offer? Right. And I don't think a fourth round draft pick really moves the needle for me. I don't think that's, you're not going to get someone in the fourth round next year that's going to be, I could be wrong, right? But, historically, right, you're not getting fourth rounders that are going to be this franchise type, game changing receiver. Again, I don't know. That's a good question. It really is. And I'm sure it's going to be a real one too, going into the summer, where the phone is definitely going to ring for some guys, and he's going to be at the list, on top of the list. I'd wait and see, man. If I'm Josh, I say, listen, I want every single person that we have in this room right now. I was successful with Kayshon last year. He knows the offense. He's going to learn it better. And I think there's going to be so much opportunity for these other guys. I think that AJ and Romeo and Hunter, and I think all those guys are going to get a lot of looks. But I also think that Kyle Williams, I think that Kayshon, I think Mac, Pop, I think all of those guys are really going to stand out and have pretty significant roles this year, whether that's in third down, early on, red zone, because defenses, as we go on throughout the season, right, they're going to try to take certain things away. And when they start doing that, that opens up a lot of other people. So, I don't know. I'm Team Kayshon, so I would love to see him. I love to see him, in this offense again. I really would. I think that he can be very successful, and I think, listen, I think he's a good receiver. He can be successful wherever he goes. But I think with Drake and with Josh and this offense, I think that they can do some special things this year. Everyone stays healthy and they kind of keep moving forward. I think it could be great.
Part of me is amazed that we're sitting here now, 2 years. I just keep thinking back to 2 years ago where we're going, how are they going to put together a wide receiver core? Can Pop Douglas be a true number one wide receiver? Right. And now we're at a point where we're talking about dealing away Kayshon Boutte for a
it's
draft
crazy.
pick. It is. It's just, like you said, I think it's a tribute to Mike and Elliott and Ryan Cowden and the rest of that front office that they've been able to rebuild that wide receiver room as quickly as they have.
I mean, we were so excited about Mac Collins coming in last year, right? And Mac, and listen, Mac is amazing and was probably one of the better additions to this team for a number of different reasons, right? Not only just his personality and what he brought to the locker room, but he really stepped. I don't think any of us imagined him stepping up as a wide receiver as much as he did last year.
Yeah.
And we were excited. Now, now we have Romeo Doubs and AJ Brown. These are real contributions and additions to this team where you really kind of taken this offense and the team to another level, right? If you're the defense and you're going against these guys every single day, that's only getting you better. And also, you got to be excited too if you're on the other side of the ball. Right. It's not just we're not relying on us to, hold teams to, a couple scores a game anymore. Cause that your offense is going to put up points, right? That's a confidence booster, go out there and play, right? They're not going to, not saying that they were, because you got coached by Mike and you have, a really good defensive staff, but I think there's just going to be a little bit more freedom and a little, guys really going out there and playing fast and, knowing that the offense, specialty, everyone's kind of got each other's backs, right? So again, you're, as long as kind of things stay the same and there's not, no one really goes off the edge or goes off the deep end here and kind of tries to mix things up in the locker room. You're putting together a bunch of guys that play together, play well together, and want to win football games, no matter what they're being paid or what, whatever the situation is. And, when you have that, right, and a head coach that believes in you and you believe in him, right, you start to do some pretty good things throughout the year.
We'll get into this more down the road, but I did think it was interesting that Drake mentioned it a few times when we talked to him over the course of the spring, over the last month or so, about how he has the same offensive coordinator now in back-to-back seasons for the first time in 5 years. And so when you have a guy like that at the controls, you tend to think that if everyone can stay healthy and the offensive line can hold up, and I want to talk more about that moving forward, because there's some different combinations there. I'm not completely comfortable with the entire group, I think, but you like to think that good things are down the road. But I want to wrap up with this one last question that I've been obsessing about for the last couple months. And we talked a little bit about it before we started. My colleague, Greg Bedard, asked Elliott the question during a pre-draft press conference. And I think it's a really good one. And it really kind of distills everything that we're talking about here into one real simple question. Is this team better now than the one that left the field at the end of Super Bowl 60? And I'll give you my take on it first. I think they are, and I think AJ Brown puts them over the top. There are still questions on both sides of the ball. I don't like their depth at tight end, for example, after Julian Hill went down. They need another pass rusher. Their depth at linebacker, I think, is a little suspect. And again, the offensive line, there's some personnel questions that I have there that I think are still that we really won't know about until we get to week 1. But I think as a group, as a roster, 1 to 53, this group is better than the one that left the field at the end of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I absolutely believe and I agree with everything that you're saying. I'll also say this, the guys that we have are the guys that we have. Now, if we're able to add guys, I think probably more on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's a pass rusher or a linebacker. But the offensive line is like, this is what we got, right? And we're gonna Josh is gonna be able to figure this out. Again, you're entering in a world where Josh is now going into his second year with these guys and Drake. Like there's a lot of things to kind of unpack there, right? Like Josh knows what these guys are good at, what they're capable of, what worked last year, what didn't work, where are guys struggling, where did we struggle, where like third down, what worked, third and short, like all this stuff is at Josh knows now, right? And he's going to approach this year and this offseason, like we're just going to get really good at the things that we did well. We're going to have to get better at the things that we didn't do well. But now we have more weapons at his disposal, and guys are going to play, going to have to play better on the offensive line, right? Like knowing all of this stuff. So, and I think that they know it too, right? Like this is not something that not anyone's talking about. Everyone's talking about the offensive line. Where's Caleb going to be? Where's it? What's who's going to be on the offensive line? So I think with that being said, I think that they've probably done a lot of work this year, on just different, pass protections, maybe changing some things up, blitz pickup, because I think if teams, but again, like teams can't just send the house now, right? You got like, if you're going to do that, then you're putting AJ one-on-one on the outside, or Romeo or Hunter, or like, so like there's things to think about here. If you're going to want to send a bunch of guys off the edge, like Josh is going to know that he'll plan for it. And you got guys that you're going to be able to catch the ball, and not just catch and get down. Like these are playmaking type of guys that got some yak ability too. So, but again, to your question, I think this team is definitely better. I think our secondary is better. I think our skill position room has gotten better on both sides of the ball. And I think it's just going to be about, I think we have two great play callers that are going to be able to go into all these games with, doing their, due diligence and play calling and scouting, and everything has gotten better, I think. And again, it's year 2, and you get to know your players and the team a little bit better. And now, like, there's certain expectations that everyone's going to be working towards. And the expectations for this team is, we got to the big game last year. Like, we were capable of doing that. Nobody thought we could. Let's go out and prove them all wrong again, right? And I think that there's still going to be that chip on their shoulders, and I hope it never leaves them. I really do. I want to keep playing with that chip and go out there and just, keep beating people, good teams, right? First half of your season is going to be tough, right? So, just with that said in itself, right? You're preparing for the first quarter of this season, right? That's going to be a stretch of really tough games, and that's good. We're going to find out a lot about this team, very early on in the season. So, and I'm excited to watch it.
Mike, at the end of mandatory minicamp last week on June 11th, that Thursday, said that there's 40 days between now and the start of training camp. And so now we're recording this on Thursday, June 18th. So what, 33 days?
Yeah.
5 weeks, 5-ish weeks or so. We'll start to know. It's going to be here before you know it. Chris Hogan, as always, my friend, thank you so much for your time. Take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Chris.